Welcome to the Chasing Your Dreams podcast, a place for you to find the wisdom and powerful strategies for overcoming obstacles and making your dreams come true. Here is your host, Eric Hall.
Welcome to the Chasing Your Dreams podcast. Today I'm happy to be back. Please subscribe. I'm welcoming one of the, best people in the world, one of my, favorite licensed clinical social worker associates. I get to do a lot of hands-on work with Mr. NaKima Clark. And today is, my goal to really introduce, the world to her, give her a chance to tell her story and really support her any way that I can and get helpful any way that I can throughout the community as me and her work on projects to help many others. I know she has a battle of her own that also we can help on as well. So I'm looking forward to this interview. And today, Mr. NaKima Clark, let me let you introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and thinking enough of me to share my story and share my dream that I'm currently chasing. Currently, I am a Raleigh native, mother of two, uh, 23 and 16. My 16-year-old is severely disabled with cerebral palsy. She's non-mobile, nonverbal. And most recently, almost a year ago, in September of 23, I was diagnosed with stage one triple positive breast cancer.
Absolutely. And allowing you this platform, I want to make more people aware, and kind of your journey. I know a lot about your daughter's situation. Please educate, just kind of educate everybody on, more so your daughter's condition and, how we can be helpful and just more educated into understanding what it takes to really help.
Yeah, so in 2008, I gave birth to my daughter at 25 weeks gestation, um, which can happen. She was born prematurely, weighed 1 pound, 4 ounces at birth, but overall, she was healthy. No brain issues, no heart issues. Of course, when they're that premature, the only thing that she required was the full development of her lungs. So with that came an intensive 4 month stay in the NICU at the hospital. And when they are that premature, they do head ultrasounds and eye exams every 2 weeks just to make sure that the baby is developing and growing as they should. And from June, when she was born in 2008, until August, those head ultrasounds and eye exams all came back normal. She was growing to be a healthy little girl until the doctors felt like she wasn't growing fast enough to their ability and they wanted to increase her calorie intake to make her grow bigger faster. And with that, she was given a formula, um, Similac, which I'm pretty sure most people have heard of, that caused the infection called necrotizing enterocolitis. I know most people now have seen a lot of advertisements and commercials on TVs about litigation suits that are currently going on behind that. That infection can be deadly. It can cause life changing events, which we see happen in my daughter. Um, Neck causes an infection in your intestinal system, makes your blood acidic, and can ultimately lead to death. Preferably, Morgan's was caught in a timely manner, and she was able to have surgery. But when she had surgery, after she had surgery and had head ultrasounds, her head ultrasound resulted in low oxygen or blood flow to the brain with a diagnosis called PVL, perioventricular leukomalacia, and it affects the white matter of your brain. And typically, oftentimes, they tell you that if it affects one side of your brain, the other side will teach the affected side on what it needs to do. Um, it would not be until Morgan was discharged and I got home and read her discharge papers that I would learn that Morgan's case was severe, which means it was on both sides of her brain. which led to her diagnosis of the cerebral palsy. That diagnosis, of course, left Morgan non-mobile and nonverbal, and doctors gave her a life expectancy of the age of 5. Um, Surprisingly, by the grace of God, and the continuity of her care, she turned 16 in June. Um, so, as a mother with an atypical child, getting into this world, having a child with a disability was something that I wasn't aware of. Didn't know how to manage, didn't know who I can turn to or talk to. So it kind of put me in perspective of, in order for me to be able to provide the best care for her, I have to learn different things and different aspects, and who can I talk to and who can I turn to, and what can I do as a mother to make sure that she has the best continuity of care, the best life, quality of life, and all of that. So that basically is why and how I got into this world of social work, because those 4 months that we traveled back and forth to the hospital from Raleigh to Durham, it was always the licensed clinical social worker who I went to for resources. And while in her role, she couldn't provide me the mental aspect of my health, she could provide me and show me things and resources of who I would need to contact, or reach out to another parent in this situation. Um, so that's a lot of what led me to want to be in the field of social work.
Absolutely. And now that you're in the field, personally, talking to you a lot, I know it's one common thing that always come up about you, want to just kind of impact one person a day at least at a time and really try to help them in any way that you possibly can. Where does that mindset actually come from?
Um, just looking at my own household, um, personal experiences, the challenges with my daughter brought on a lot of mental health within my own household, which affected my own child, who at the time was a teenager, a young adult, adolescent. So that is part of the reason why that population pulls at my heartstring, because I feel like a lot of times they don't know how to verbalize or communicate what they're experiencing. So there has to be ways and means to approach them in order for them to make them feel comfortable in their situations, to be able to talk to someone about what they might be experiencing or about what they might be feeling and how that impacts them. I can actually say, with that situation with my daughter, being married at the time, it caused a lot of turmoil in my marriage because my husband at that point didn't know how to handle the fact that now we had a disabled child, which led him to substance use of alcohol, which also played a part on our marriage and our communication. And then that communication offset it to my daughter, who now, it's almost like a ripple effect. So my goal now is to ensure young adults that they have an outlet that they can talk to and express themselves, because social well-being is something that they need in this society. And if they are or don't know how or aren't sure how to communicate properly, it's not going to help them in the future.
Absolutely. And man, and it's funny how, our goals start to really change over time, and really creating the platform. That was the bigger message, in terms of chasing your dreams, like until you can't chase them no more, but understanding life circumstance sometimes changes. And I kind of understand, everything that called for you to come to this field. Let's just think back, as I reflect back prior to you even having your daughter, what ultimately were you chasing at that time? What was the thing that you wanted to be or do?
Before I had my daughter, I always wanted to be involved with uh juveniles or children and adolescents in some type of way, or substance abuse. And that comes from personal life experience. I've had an uncle who suffered from substance abuse, and no matter how intoxicated he was or what he was thinking about, he always called me. I had an aunt who, what I would call, was a functioning alcoholic who um, could get up and perform her professional 9 to 5 every day, but suffered from alcoholism. And she always called me. Um, and I was like, why do these people always call me? What is it about me that they feel like they can entrust to talk to them about their issues and their problems and trust me to give them some type of insight? So even before my daughter was born, I had this niche that I wanted to be able to help the community in some type of way, giving back. And even after I had my daughter, when my oldest was in high school, oftentimes her friends or different kids in the school would just gravitate to me and share things with me that they hadn't shared with their parents, such as their sexuality or what they might have been going through. Or if they saw me in the school and they were having a bad day, it was me who they wanted to talk to. And I'm like, why me? What is it about me that leads these people to want to talk to me? So at that point, my ultimate goal was to get my daughter through high school, get her in college, and focus on how I could help giving back in my community to others.
Absolutely. And then now that jump starts your journey, and to a lot of licensed clinical social workers that might tune in and start to really listen to this, what was your process in terms of going back to school? What did it take? And ultimately, what were the steps you had to take to become licensed?
um Drive and determination, I will say, is what led me to go back to school. I literally received my acceptance letter and still hadn't made a decision whether or not I was going to go back, because I had just accepted a new job. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to school and work full time. But when you have a passion about doing something and succeeding, it makes it easier. And I tell anybody who is an adult learner who has been out of school for a few years, I had just hadn't had received my bachelor's 7 years prior. When you feel the gut and the motivation inside of you to want to do it, then that's the time to do it. Don't ever go back to school based off of somebody else's opinions of what they feel you need to do. It's got to be something that you're passionate about and that you want to do. So I kind of did my research, and ironically, when I went in to obtain my master's, I wanted to be a school social worker, because again, I wanted to be able to go into schools and give back to those who may be lacking. But it was once I was enrolled that I found out, okay, a school social worker is not going to do what I want to do. I want to be able to focus on the mental health and physical health of these kids and not just figure out what resources they may need or why they're not coming to school. So that led me to the clinical track.
Absolutely, man. And you just said a mouthful in the sense of really why you're on your your associate licensure. You hear me say all the time, it's about really getting out here, finding your niche, trying to figure out what population you want to work with, like really specialize and find something that makes you feel like you never worked a job a day in your life, like feel like finding that happiness. Just to kind of give your school some credit, man. Where did you get your bachelor's from, and then where did you go on to get your master's of social work from?
I am a Bear Eagle. Got my bachelor's from Shaw University. Undergrad was sociology with a minor in concentration in criminal justice, and I received my master's in social work from the illustrious North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina.
All right, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
will
Yeah,
have to say I went uh, graduated in COVID. I was in school in COVID and still managed to graduate magna cum laude.
congrats. And I mean, that's huge, man. Really trying to manage going back to school 7 years later. And then, of course, man, all the struggles and stuff with COVID, that's, very commendable for sure. I got to know you right after you graduated. We go through the process of getting you licensed with your A. And then ultimately, another roadblocks comes in your way out of the ordinary, out the blue. Neither one of us probably foreseen that coming. Nobody in your circle probably foreseen that coming. You start to, really face your challenge and, really start to fight the fight with breast cancer. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so September last year, September 21st, I was diagnosed with stage 1 triple positive breast cancer. And it's something that no one wants to hear. Um, Routine mammogram, ladies, please make sure you are getting your mammograms. Caught my diagnosis. Um, and I have a family history of breast cancer. I've had two biological aunts on my mother's side to be diagnosed, and two biological aunts on my father's side to be diagnosed. But ironically, I do not have the BRCA gene. So despite everything that I had been going through, 2023 was a challenging year for me. My daughter, at the beginning of the year, had to have a spinal infusion surgery, which left her hospitalized for almost 3 months. I was without medical insurance for a time being. Being that I had a history of breast cancer, it was always a thing to me to make sure every year I was able to get my mammograms. And in December of 2022, I did not, because I was so focused on making sure that my daughter was going to have what she needed for her surgery that was coming up. And again, like I said, I didn't have insurance part of the year 2023. I had just taken a new job at an inpatient psych facility and said to myself, okay, it's time to take this job full time so you can focus on your own health. You know, you're focusing on everybody else's health and mental health, but you can't forget to focus on yourself. Um, so I did that, got insurance. The first appointment that I scheduled was for my mammogram, and went to my mammogram in August, and my doctor called me back and said she wanted me to have another one because it was abnormal. I have had an abnormal mammogram in the past, but this time I tell people the phone call and the experience that I felt, it felt different. I knew that this time was not going to be the last time where they said, oh, it's just scar tissue. So when I got the diagnosis, ultimately, there's nothing that nobody wants to hear, because my mindset goes to my children, and my child who needs total care. Like, who's going to care for my family? But again, at that point, I had to educate myself on the diagnosis that I had been given and the effects of it, and how could I get through this? Um, for those who don't know, breast cancer is driven off of three receptors: estrogen, progesterone, and a HER2 new receptor. And if your HER2 new receptor is positive, it generally causes your cancer to be more aggressive and spread more rapidly. But because of my mammogram and it being caught early, I did not have to take treatment routes of someone who may have not had their mammogram in a timely manner. Um, so I did not have to experience the effects of chemo and hair loss and sickness. I did have to have surgery. I did have to go through radiation, but right now I'm in a clinical trial called ADIP, and it allows me to still have part of a chemo drug, but instead of being given it intravenously every week like I would have had to do, I get an injection every 3 weeks for a year, um, to cure this diagnosis. So my challenge has been to continue to mentally and physically take care of myself as well as my children, which allowed me to go back to therapy myself, because I had to find ways to figure out, how do I keep myself mentally and physically sane and in shape with what I'm going through, and still be able to provide what I need to provide to my clients, their families, and my own family.
Absolutely, man. And you gave me a mouthful, man. But in a sense, man, since I'm gonna take a minute to just focus on the ladies, because you mentioned making sure they get their mammograms. What other advice would you have? Because you mentioned, you also focus on your self care. What are some things that you do that works for you, and what are some things that people can possibly do in their life?
The number one thing is that I preach to myself, my family, my clients, is to take care of you. I often pose the question to mothers or fathers, who is the most important person in your life? And oftentimes we hear, oh, my mom or my kids. And I'm like, that's the wrong answer. The most important person in your life should be yourself, Because if you're not fully capable of taking care of yourself, then you can't take care of anybody else. If my cup has no water in it, I can't put water or share my water with anybody else. So whether it's taking 5 minutes of time to sit in your car to digress before you go in the house, whether it's going in the closet in your house in your bedroom to just have 5 minutes to yourself, it is important to provide yourself some type of self-care. Most people feel like self-care has the cost. Self-care is free. Self-care is making sure that your mind is free and clear of what your next steps are going to be. um, Make sure you're going to the doctor. Make sure that we all work 8 to 5, 9 to 5, 7 to 3 during the same hours that the doctor hours are office hours are open. And sometimes people are afraid to take off of work because of what their employer might say. Your employer is going to be there. If you die today, they're going to send you a sympathy card, your family a sympathy card, and fill your position. Take care of you. It is important to make sure that you are taking care of you mentally and physically, because the mind and body work together. And if one is off, your whole body is off. So people say mind, body, soul. I said mind, body, whole. If you're not complete with those two, if 1 plus 1 is not equaling 2, you're not going to be able to function like you should in life.
Absolutely, and I definitely agree with that, man. And giving you this platform, breast cancer is a huge, topic. I've been able to be part of your team and be able to do donations and stuff like that. How do people support the cause? Like, how do we really dive in and really be just supportive in general?
So the Making for Strides breast cancer race is actually coming up, and I can share my information with you if people want to donate and join my team to help cancer research. Even if they don't want to participate in the walk, if you want to join that team to participate to help cancer research, we would love that. I often look at myself and say, as a social worker, I feel like now I have so many realms and avenues that I can eventually branch off into. I want to be able to help those that may have had the same diagnosis. I want to be able to help a parent who may be like me with a child with a tracheostomy and a G tube for the first time and has no clue. I want to be able to support a child who's had a sibling or a parent that suffered from alcoholism and they don't know how to talk to. So, but yeah, I will make sure that you have the information for Making Strides. If there's anybody out there who wants to join, if there's anybody out there who's been affected with the diagnosis and needs somebody to talk to, then I feel like that's what I'm here for.
Absolutely, and I'll make sure to share your information on all the platforms. It'll be part of this video as well. I really appreciate that, man. And speaking it into existence, you're defeating the breast cancer. What's next? I mean, I know you still chasing some things in your life. What are you trying to accomplish for yourself?
Oh wow, oh my gosh. So my breast cancer diagnosis set me back a little bit, but we take it and we keep on going. My ultimate goal is to take my exam and become fully licensed, and to figure out how I can get out in this world and help and show people that regardless of your circumstances, regardless of the situations that you're faced with, you can have the mental ability and physical ability to still get up and chase your dreams and do what you uh, set out to do in life. When I first was diagnosed, and even going back to when my daughter, was diagnosed with her disabilities, we always have the first instinct to want to question why. Like, why me? Why is this happening to me? When I got diagnosed, I listened to a sermon from my church. Started not to listen to it that day, but because it wasn't my pastor. Sometimes you know how we are. We want to hear it from the person that we know, but it was someone speaking that I didn't know of, had no history of. And he spoke about not asking why, but what. So that is what I use. I can't ask why this is happening to me, but this has happened to me for what reason? What am I going to be able to teach or show somebody else? What can I do to help somebody else? What conversations can I have to encourage somebody else? So that is what my ultimate goal is to take this exam, pass it, and figure out what can I do with all of my life situations to help somebody else.
Absolutely, man. I'm gonna ask you a lasting question, man. Hopefully, that really helps some people because, I've been able to see, I've been able to talk to you, and I hear those days when you probably don't got it or you don't feel like doing anything, and then I look up some way somehow you in a meeting or you at work or you doing multiple things. You still fighting a good fight. What motivates you even on those days that you don't really feel you got it to keep going and keep like pushing through?
Number one, I would say my children, but just to know that every day that I wake up is another chance. I may not have gotten it right the day before, but if I can get up and have the ability and the means to do so the following day, then that's what motivates me. Um, People will often tell you I don't like to hear people complain, because there is somebody out there right now, including my child, who does not have the ability to talk, who does not have the ability to walk, who does not have the ability to see, who does not have the ability to hear, but I have all of those things. So if I can use all of those things to my advantage and get out here and make some type of impact every day, whether it's one person, whether it's two people, then that's what I'm gonna do. I always say that my ultimate goal is, if I can have an impact on at least one person, if I can make one person smile, or if I can make one person say, "Oh, you made my day," or "Thank you," then I feel like I've done my job for the day.
Absolutely. And, I appreciate you coming on today. I know it took a little bit out of your schedule for us to get on and do this, but I really wanted to make people aware of your story. I really wanted to help you on, that goal of really helping other people and just kind of get the message out. I know me and you have plenty of times to do more of these, so today was just kind of laying the platform, getting the message out. And I look forward to when we do some combined, conversations on platforms and do some different things. How you feel about today?
Of course, of course. From day one, I think we've known each other for almost 4 years, going on 4 years now next year. And you've always been an inspiration, your drive. I see you doing so many things, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's going to be me. And I know if you can do it, I can do it. You're always encouraging everybody around you, making sure everybody has the tools that they need to succeed in life. And that is what I want to be able to do one day, too.
Absolutely. Then I see it all in your future, man. I want you to keep going, keep fighting a good fight. I'm definitely going to continue to be supportive any way that I possibly can. Again, thank you for joining today and thank everyone for listening. I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. This is it today for Chasing Your Dreams podcast.